Welcome to Freedom Cast, a podcast dedicated to interviewing star icons and entrepreneurs who have encouraged others to become more healthy and active. My name is Ashton, and it's my pleasure to host you as we take another trip through the fitness industry. It's entertaining and informative, and I hope it makes fitness more exciting and special to you in your own fitness journey. Freedom Cast is supported by Freedom Fitness Equipment in Charlotte, North Carolina. Freedom Fitness Equipment serves the health and fitness community nationwide, from free weights and strength equipment for home gyms and studios to cardio and conditioning equipment for commercial spaces. Check them out at freedomfitnessequipment.com. Let's get rolling with today's show. Welcome to Freedom Cast. We're here with Olivia, and am I saying it's Pellish? Is that right?
Pellish.
Pellish. Okay, I did have it right the first time.
Yes, you killed it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Olivia is in the fitness world and studying. Is this undergrad or master's at this point?
This is actually still undergrad.
Okay, awesome. So she is one of the few fitness personalities that I've come across that has really good evidence-based backing for what she's saying. Some people will base it off experience, anecdote, a lot of different things that aren't scientific. And Olivia and a few others have really borne down on, let's get the evidence out there, let's study this and create a compelling case for the things that we're doing or the things that we shouldn't do. I know you probably throw anecdote in there as well, but I've really appreciated that about your content. So thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Just to start out with, for people who don't know, who are you? What's your background, and why should anybody care?
That's a really good question. Honestly, I don't think anybody should. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm one of those people that I've always wanted to be into fitness. I've always wanted to be a trainer. I have memories of training my friends at 6 years old.
Wow.
Like around the playground, just yelling at them and telling them what to do. It's nothing's changed. I've just gotten taller. That's honestly it. Nothing has changed besides that. I was an athlete through high school. So, the whole, I've been in sports, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I can attribute a lot of who I am today to the body image issues that I think a lot of us deal with growing up, just in this culture where everything is so physical and everyone's comparing themselves. And I did grow up with social media in high school. So that, I was part of that crowd. And I think that even just teaching people how to be comfortable in their own skin is a big part of why I do what I do, Yeah. So I think that part of the evidence-based portion of myself today is a lot of previous Olivia has been misled in this way or that way. And I don't want other people to go through the same, So I definitely don't ever pretend to be the smartest out there. Maybe I pretend, but we all know, there are PhDs and that's fine. And so one thing I've made sure to do is ask them for help. I have all my work checked and all that stuff. Cause the last thing I want to do is think I'm doing something and putting something good out there and not be doing that, Yep,
absolutely. So what made you go down this path? Well, before I ask that, training background, are you strength training? Where's that coming from?
Mostly. I did compete in bodybuilding shows. So that a little bit of my intro into fitness was the bodybuilding world, which is honestly kind of funny because that's not really an evidence-based community at all. And so there's been a lot of unlearning there. But yeah, a lot of strength training, a lot of my clients are a lot of just gen pop and just people looking to get healthy, get fit. I do enjoy the strength training aspect the most. You'll see me hate on cardio a little bit, but that's actually not, a lot of that isn't actually hate. It's just, go lift weights. Don't be afraid of that,
Yep. Contextualizing it. Absolutely.
Definitely.
When did you really start getting into I know on TikTok, you've got a really good following. So when did that really start clicking for you? We need to start backing this up with a lot of studies. I'm going to start putting out some significant content around these topics and not just kind of talking about them without the backing.
The very first thing that I did was, I don't know if you saw this. I don't know how to say her last name, but she's this lady named Ingrid. And she was putting out 1,200 calorie diet information or it was 1,000 calories a day.
Oh no.
And I was like, Oh, exactly. I said, oh no, no, you don't. And so I literally grabbed my physical, like precision nutrition textbook and I had like 300 followers. It was like mostly friends. And I just like get in the camera and like yell at her and like slam the book shut. And I was like, you've clearly never been to class, blah, blah, blah. Like it was a little aggressive, but I had what, 300 of my friends to lose. I had nothing to lose. So that has almost 800,000 views. and that was like literally overnight.
Wow.
And so then I woke up and was like, oh, okay, here we go. Let's do this. And it just kind of became this whole like overwhelming. I think I woke up to like maybe 8,000 followers, something like that. So
Sure.
A smaller amount, but still more than 300.
Wow.
And yeah, it was, so I guess this whole attitude of like getting in the camera and being aggressive and all this has really kind of taken off. And it's been like this online persona that I've kind of stepped into, which honestly isn't that different from my real life persona. Mm-hmm. So that's fine. It's really not that much acting.
Nice.
It's pretty on par.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, so then you started calling out all these. So did you start going like actively going after fitness influencer types after that, just to
yes,
kind of knock some sense in them? Nice. I like it.
Yes.
Okay. Contextualize this conversation. Would you say there are instances where, and again, this is, I've interviewed bodybuilders and powerlifters and strongmen, and there's certain things that seem to work for them that they would also contextualize and say, it works for me, it may not work for everybody. I mean, are there things that are valid that, depending on your body type, oh, I'm going to do this training methodology, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for everybody, or maybe you would, and you can't point to a study that says this mechanic is the best for this particular movement?
Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely some things that, for example, we'll talk about squats later, I'm sure, but let's take the lat pull down, for example. Yeah. If I have a client who loves that movement and that's what they want to do, and that's what they want to work, and this is a Gen Pop client, and I only see them twice a week, will I waste my time trying to get them to do some other variation that I think is maybe more optimal? Probably not. I want them to enjoy the 2 hours a week that they have with me in the gym and get beneficial movements done there. It's kind of where you get to that next, well, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to optimize my own training. And that's fine. But when that isn't clarified from basically Gen Pop advice, then that's where you get people confused and, thinking that this is better. And if they don't do it this way, they will never make gains and all those types of things,
Yep, absolutely. All right. So let's get into what I really wanted to dive into, which is the notorious Joel Seedman. And for those of you who don't know, and you can probably give better context to this, Joel claims, from what I've seen of his content, I don't know, like, he may have a few high profile athletes, but he claims he trains athletes and has super specific, efficient movements that, to be frank, look quite odd or at least silly to the average Joe. So like, can't go past 90-degree hinge in your knee angle for squatting, some odd like Bosu balance stuff that you would see in like Fit Talk, Fitstagram type content, and weird things like that. And so when I asked Olivia about this, just for our audience, she was like, yeah, I'm all over it. You've already made content and videos with Brina about this as well. So I wanted to see, just go for it, like as much as you can. What the heck is going on with this guy? Is there any validity to anything he's saying, or is he just spewing a bunch of BS?
Yes, so many things. Okay, I want to start off and say, first of all, that I know that this is some people might think this is super inappropriate because I have yet to get a bachelor's degree, and he does have a PhD.
Yeah.
And I just want to acknowledge the fact that like he has done work that I haven't, and that's okay. And like, I respect that. I respect that he's done a PhD. I hope to be there someday. I would love that. But that's part of my frustration with it, right? It's like, man, the only thing standing between me and PhD right now is finances. And like the fact that you have a PhD and you're choosing to use it for a clickbait.
Yeah.
I hate that. It's so, honestly, so disappointing. Especially because we're in the exact same field. I'm BS in kinesiology. He's PhD in kinesiology. I'm like, really? One of my own? Come on. Like, this is it's just disappointing, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
So I do want to say that I know that he has a PhD and I respect that. And I'm not trying to say, you know, I know more in this area and I think I'm smarter. I don't. Like, I know that. It's okay. But there are several things to go over here. So number one, last semester, I was in a muscle physiology class and we had like an end project. And this is also part of my personality that I'm kind of just this like, I guess this like anarchist ringleader, I suppose, in school, because I'm 27 and I'm still in school. So I'm paired with all these like younger people and they're all like my little brother's age. And it's just kind of like, I'm like, all right, here we go. So it comes time for our final project and we're all like, okay, what do we want to present on? You know, we can literally talk about anything muscle physiology related. And I'm like, have you guys heard of Joel Seedman before? And they're like, no, who's that? I'm like, well, pull up your Instagrams, let's go. And these guys are like, what is he doing? This is so odd. And he's like, one of the guys are like, wait, did he just say that partial range of motion is better for, and I'm like, here we go. They're getting upset. And so by the end of the project, we're all standing up there and I have these like guys who 2 weeks ago didn't know who this guy was. And they're all like, F Joel Seedman, he's the worst. Don't listen. I'm like, listen, we can't be like that. You can't, this is a project. The professor loved it. He was like, this is phenomenal. And then he asked me afterwards, he's like, is this guy for real? Does Dr. Joel Seedman really believe these things? I'm like, that's a great question. They are all over his social media. I want to say that I don't know if he really believes them or not. Part of the whole thing being in science is evidence-based isn't necessarily like I found a study to support and I'm going to go with that evidence. It's looking at the general consensus of what evidence is telling us. And that's not really what he's doing. And so when you look at the general consensus so far of does full range of motion versus partial range of motion benefit hypertrophy and strength, the answer is full range of motion. You know, if you want to get better at a certain thing, you do that thing. So if you want to get really good at going a quarter of the way down and no farther, then do quarter squats. But if you want to get better at squatting, to the best of your ability, the best depth that you could do full squats.
How dare you suggest that?
I know. Honestly, fire me now. What? take my almost degree away from me right now. And so the guys, you know, after the project, that was like our final, and you know, they all graduated a semester ahead of me. So I'm like, bye. But they're like, you should make this into a TikTok. I'm like, okay. So I literally turned our presentation into my part 1 article review.
Nice.
And added some things and took away some things, but that was the one that did pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Brina was like all fired up about it. And she flew out to Phoenix to see me. And I'm like, you want to collab on part 2? And she's like, yes, let's go. So she's all over Joel Seedman talking now too. It's pretty funny.
That is
yeah. So it's just been interesting to listen to what other people that I respect in the field say about him. And I do want to say, I don't necessarily, the guys were all fired up because, you know, they're newly finding him and whatnot. And it's funny. I don't necessarily subscribe to this idea that he's like this villain in the fitness industry.
Sure.
I'm pro villain and he's not a villain.
Yeah.
He's the guy that did really well one time and wants to do well again. And that's okay. But I don't necessarily subscribe to him being this like villain that we all have to be against. I just, as a student, I question a lot of his things and wish that he was more direct with answering questions instead of calling people deranged lunatic haters on TikTok.
Yeah, that was wild. Like every other comment is that reply.
Correct.
It's not helpful.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So, okay. So list off a few of the things that you've been able to address. I know your recent video covers a couple of those, but like, what are some real like stinkers that he's put out there that you're vehemently against?
Well, I will say that his part 2 article was extremely hard to do some research because he doesn't cite a single source.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to say, you know, X, Y, and Z is true. Trust me. And then be like, well, now the burden of proof is on me because you didn't cite a source. And so now I have to look up all of these mechanisms that you're referring to that are under different names because you name them differently. What is an eccentric isometric? I don't know.
He literally, hold on, he said eccentric isometric.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What? So yeah, eccentric isometric is what he claims he has his athletes do. And if you go to his dissertation, it is actually called a yielding isometric, which is, and I have a definition right here. It's pretty phenomenal. But this was kind of the benefit of having his dissertation. You're forced to define things.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, here we go. He defined it because it's a dissertation. This is how he got his PhD. Let's look. So a yielding isometric is a unique form of isometric training in which an individual lowers a load to a certain position and maintains that position for a given period of time.
So a pause squat.
Yep, that's the one. Okay. But at least the definition gave me an idea of what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, in part 2 of the article, he talks about eccentric isometrics. I think we did a word count on that. He says that word 76 times.
Oh my gosh.
And doesn't define it once. And so the whole time I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, he's saying like, this will give you Jedi like mind muscle connection, and this will give you flawless technique. And I'm like, but what is it? But define it for us, because what? So that just is, you know, an issue in and of itself.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, as I'm like, define your terms, please. Another thing is that this is kind of where the contradiction comes into play. He claims that on his social media, he's saying things like, this is better for everyone, and you should be doing quarter squats, and nobody should be going to full range of motion. Yeah. And then I don't know if you watched his chat with Mike Isertel.
Oh, I briefly. Oh,
love it.
I think I saw the one with like Dan Bell.
Yes,
or sorry,
yes.
Mike Bell.
On Mark Bell. Yeah. So that was phenomenal. I think Mike did a really great job of asking questions rather than just like ripping him a new one, because we all expected that and he didn't. And I thought that was really cool. He kind of just let him talk, because I think more than anything, we all have questions. Mm-hmm. And one thing that he did say on that interview was that he does this for clickbait. Yeah. So, you know, it's hard to decide whether he really believes this or if he's trying to get views and likes. And I'm like, if I just wanted to get views and likes, I promise you that I wouldn't go for a PhD.
Yeah. No kidding.
So, you know, discrepancy there. So it's just a little frustrating. The other thing I want to say is that training athletes is not a flex. That's not an accomplishment. You know, like it's really not. I mean, if you look, we could even get into recovery modalities. If you look at professional athletes, a lot of them believe a lot of BS.
Yeah.
Athletes are not professional scientists.
Right.
And I think that's also kind of like a crossover that shouldn't be happening right now, is that professional athletes don't know, because they've never had to think for themselves regarding their own training and their own recovery.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of professional athletes getting out of sports and starting like cryotherapy bars, you know, and it's like, okay, we could get into the pros and cons of cryotherapy. But the reason that they're successful is because they're athletes that are starting them, not because cryotherapy is magic, you know?
Right.
And in the same sense, he's claiming he trains all these pro athletes, many of which are injured. And that's fine, but that's not a merit, you know, that it's not an accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's fun, but I don't know. It's not an authority point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, there's a lot of athletes that believe in things like balance rings and you know, ice baths and things that have been completely debunked.
Yes.
And it continues to happen. So it's not like it's I think we do look up to them, NFL players for the guys and ice skaters and all that, and just see like, oh, whatever they're doing, we definitely need to do. The other part to that point is Gen Pop doesn't respond in the same way or can't even recover in the same way that those guys can, right?
Absolutely. You could be, and professional athletes have such a different level of adaptation that they could be doing a crap workout program and still make gains. They are genetically gifted, and it's different. You know, you could be a horrible trainer, put them through a program that at least follows progressive overload, and probably end up with an okay athlete. Like, unfortunately, it's like, you don't have to be that good to train professional athletes. And that's kind of that's the point. I'm like, okay, but how many of your regular people are benefiting from these things? You know?
That the other and to your point about training athletes, if you're an average coach, you look good.
Yes.
You look really good, especially at the pro level. These guys could, and I see a lot of like real stupidity in people that aren't doing progressive overload and like common sense stuff with the balance balls and the whole bit. And I'm sure the athletes are doing fine with those exercises and still progressing, but I feel like it's not as much as they could if they were doing straight strength training or sport specific movements that aren't nonsense. So
exactly. Yep. It's like making gains is one thing, but when you are making less than maybe you would if you were just following a evidence-based program.
Yeah. And to me, the worst of the worst is when you're essentially putting on a show with an athlete and you're showing off how amazing you are instead of showing how awesome and amazing that athlete is, and trying to pump yourself up for views, clicks, whatever it is, when really the athlete and the training regimen you've got them on is crap. So
exactly.
Yeah. So okay, so that squat video that everybody seems to be talking about with is it a 90-degree
yes
angle with your knee? Okay.
Yes.
So just for everybody's if everybody's on YouTube visualizing this, so the angle would not go farther than that, but because you're launched forward like this, it actually ends up looking like a partial range of motion.
Yes.
Where is he getting this from?
I really think it's from his dissertation.
It is. Okay.
So yeah, that's another thing, is that people think that 90 degrees is parallel. It's not. Like 90 degrees literally looks like you just started a squat.
Yeah.
And I will say this, I will interject and say, if 90 degrees is your full range of motion and that's all you can do, then congratulations, keep doing that. Work towards more. But the whole point of movement is to get people to move through their potential, their maximum range of motion potential. And so I think, he says things like, that is, you just like keep your body tense and like, you just want all this tension. And like, have you seen, when he squats down, he kind of does this, like, he like stops and like squeezes. And I'm like, ugh. My body hurts watching this. Like, I just feel bad for him. I'm like, dude, relax.
Pressure on your spine's got to be enormous.
I know. I know. I'm a little concerned. But it's kind of just, he thinks that this is better for all these reasons, because he uses a lot of words like loose, like when you get into full range of motion, your body gets loose. And like, I'm like, I don't know what that means. I do, but that's not what that means.
Okay.
Like,
so,
hey.
Is he talking about, because like, is he giving any credence to the lengthening and contraction of the musculature and how it is, the longer it's, is it true that it's, the more you lengthen that muscle, the stronger it's going to get over that period, or is that a thing?
Sure. I mean, even when you're not going down all the way, it's not even lengthening. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not lengthening to the longest it could possibly be. So sure, it'll get stronger in that portion. But I mean, again, when you try to squat full range of motion, you'll be like, why can't I lift what I normally lift? You know? It's just interesting. And there is a video actually right now on TikTok going viral of this. I think she's a professional track athlete doing quarter squats. And I actually commented and I was like, okay, as someone who frequently screams about full range of motion, this is absolutely an instance where this is valid. And she's, and she's showing like hurdle jumps and how she's like, do you see how right before I took off for this hurdle, she took like a highlight and she drew this, look at this 90-degree angle right before I took off. And when I get out of the blocks and when I start like this, and she's like, I this is exactly the point. She's like, I also trained full range of motion most of my training days. However, on sport specific training days, this is what I'm doing. And this is why I go super heavy. However, I also do full range of motion. And I think that was really important because it's like, there is some validity to sport specificity. And this athlete needing to practice this specific movement for this reason. It's when you say claims like he says, where everyone should be doing this. I mean, literally word for word. He's not, I'm not exaggerating. He's saying everyone should be doing this all of the time. No one should ever go to full depth. No, there is nothing there, And even the research that he does cite in his part 1, because there was research cited there, is actually contradicting him. So, yeah. And this is where I'm like, listen, this is why I'm embarrassed. I'm not even a bachelor's in kinesiology yet, and I can figure this out. Like, this is not okay. He cites a bunch of EMG studies, and the misconception with EMG studies is that, I have it pulled up right here.
What is an EMG study?
So basically what people claim it is, well, first of all, EMG is electromyographic response.
Okay.
So it's a way to measure tensibility of a muscle. Okay. Essentially. However, people use it all the time to predict hypertrophy potential. And that's not what you can do. Like, that's not actually what they're for. And one of the studies he cited was an EMG study. And this is kind of something that we need to start looking out for more when we cite studies saying like, well, this is, optimal hypertrophy. This EMG, this muscle was activated greater, or there was greater motor unit recruitment on this muscle. That doesn't really mean anything until it means something, And so one of the studies he cited is saying, oh, there's greater EMG, activation on this muscle in partial range of motion. And that actually means next to nothing. So it's unfortunate, it's like you have to know how to interpret EMG studies in order to know that. And it's hard, I will say, like, this isn't something necessarily that was taught to me during school or is right now, but it's kind of fun to learn about because it makes a bunch of studies that people cite kind of null for the points they're trying to make,
Yeah. So how did his dissertation pass?
That's a great question. The petty part of me kind of wants to reach out to his director and be like, hey, I have questions for you. But what EMG can be used for, there are a couple of things. Scrolling down, I have literally the articles pulled up right here. It's kind of silly. I'm like, how many PMIDs can I have in one day? So relative muscle excitation. So, within subject and within muscle differences, timing of excitation.
Excitation. Okay, gotcha. Yes. So how much the muscle is being activated.
Contracted.
Okay,
yes.
Got it.
And binary excitation. So on or off.
Okay.
So what it cannot be used for, a lot of things it often is, strength.
Yeah.
Hypertrophy. Awkward.
Yeah.
Force production and sharing. Activation. Motor unit recruitment. So basically every single thing in his article.
Yeah. So it can't prove the things he wanted to prove.
It cannot. No.
Wow. And
even the article he originally cited, this is a 2015 article, I believe, 2018. There's two. I have 2015 and 2018 that both are like, hey, this is what EMG is supposed to be for. And I'm also the author of this, graduated from ASU. So I'm like, yes, team, let's go. Let's go. They're both, Brett Contreras contributed to both of these as well. And the article that Joel cited in his part 1 was also by Brett Contreras. And at the end of the article, Brett and the other authors say, although we found greater motor unit recruitment in the partial squat, it is still recommended to squat to every individual's full range of motion. So you can't just extrapolate a sentence out of an article and run with it.
Oh my gosh.
And so even the articles that he cites to back his point do not agree with him and say full range of motion is best for most people, unless we're talking about very specific sports situations,
That's so wild.
Right. And so as a student, like, research synthesization is something we are taught, I mean, time and time again, every single semester.
Yeah.
And it takes time and it's difficult. And professors on purpose will give us studies that all contradict each other and say, make sense of this.
Yeah.
Because any subject in science, you're going to find something that supports both sides. But there is a clear answer most of the time.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's not as direct as people will want it to be.
Right.
You know, people want like, what is best? And it's like, what is best is for you to go lift weights and be consistent and do it to the best of your ability.
Right.
You know, but you know, the clean answers are not.
It truly is a lawyer's answer. Like it depends.
It
And that's the wisest answer. And the one that I've heard the most from people who have years of experience are it depends.
It does.
And often the scientific studies are saying it depends. And then people pull, it's a news article or it's a clickbait article about this one line, like you said, that they're just saying, this is the truth. This is it. And it's so much more. But Olivia, listen, hey, look, so what about 90-degree angle, but with a safety squat bar and a hex trap bar? That has to be way more activation. Believe me, I've seen it all over the place. It is absolutely effective.
Effective for views, perhaps. I don't know. I might have to measure those views with EMG though. We'll see.
Oh my gosh.
I can't.
What is that? Like now he's like, okay, so now you go partial range of motion. And by the way, add all these implements to do two things at the same time. Are you you're saving a lot of time is what I think it comes down to.
Yeah, I question everything, but pretty much what I've decided about that is he seems to think that like, oh, if we put this athlete in an extreme situation where it's like you have all these distractions and you have all these different things you're supposed to be focused on, then you'll get really good at that movement. And it's like, no, they will not improve much in that movement because they have so many distractions, so many things going on at the time. You know, it's just like, this is not supposed to be the majority of your training, what's happening. And I think that, again, this came from the Mark Bell, Mike, as you tell, Joel Seedman discussion, but Mike made a really good point in his takeaway that like, you know, if you have someone doing bench press with like rain hitting their head and someone like kicking their foot and knocking the bench out from underneath of them, like how good are they really going to be able to get at that bench press versus someone who's training a bench press to full range of motion with no distractions and a great spotter and, you know, adequate rest. That person is going to be a lot stronger no matter the situation, you know? And I think it's this like, perhaps it's this false idea that we need to be like as extreme as possible. You know, it's like, well, I want a band around my elbows while I do the squat as well. And like, you know, I need wrist wraps around every inch of my arm. And I need someone in my face yelling and also a trap bar and also a hex squat while I'm hanging from chains on a pull-up bar. And it's like, what are you really training at that point? You know, what's happening there?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, and he's got it quite the audience too. So the fact that he's putting that kind of content out there it's bothersome. I know he's probably done half a dozen other things. Are there any other major kind of movements that he's promoting similar to like that squat thing that you've seen?
It's a lot of, you know what was interesting? This is kind of funny. So it's a lot of squats. That's his number one. I think that gets the most views.
Okay.
But one other thing is he really did say like all joint angles should be 90. And so he even has, I don't know who that, some quarterback he trains. He has him doing 90-degree lat pull downs.
What?
He will literally pull like this and stop here.
Oh my word.
And I'm like, now listen, I think that me and JPG would agree on this. Do more.
Because at that point, it's not, that's your back's contraction is a completely different thing than like, unless you're just training upper body, like arm, like your back's contraction hasn't
even happened. Yeah. Hasn't happened yet. Still waiting on that.
That is
so pretty funny. Yeah, I don't honestly, it's just so, it's so overwhelming to try to debunk something like this because it's kind of like, when you don't cite sources, it's like, where do you even start? You know?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I mentioned earlier. It's like, even for the most simple ideas, like we do need evidence to support it. So finding that evidence to support this like very simple idea that like, you need to do a full range of motion contraction to improve. It seems simple, but it's like, all right, let's find the evidence to support that.
Yeah.
It's daunting sometimes.
Where are you pulling your counter evidence from?
I specifically use PubMed.
Okay.
I have access to, thank goodness, still a student, have access to pretty much all of the journals because the ASU library allows me full access to all these, like, you know, so when you click on PubMed and you go to like full article and it makes you like pay for an article, I don't have that block right now.
Nice.
So I can download any of them.
Awesome.
And I keep all of them. I'm old school. I have like a printer and I highlight, and I have like paper articles still. It's so silly. But I'm on PubMed is like one of my favorites on my homepage. So I'm on it almost every single day.
And just so people know, you're not freeballing it. Like, you're actually running this by professors as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. I have my videos checked and checked again. And that's another thing, is that this isn't just some conversation where it's like, you know, some kid who doesn't like this guy making fun of him online. This is like, I'm showing this to my professors, like current kinesiology professors in the field who are current on research and relevant. And they are like, what the heck? It's not just me and all my friends making fun of someone, you know, it's like, this is things that people that could have been his professor really aren't liking. So yeah, I run this by everyone. The guy who we presented the original project to, I sent him the TikTok via email after the semester, and he was like, he died. He was like, that was phenomenal. I'm like, thank you, sir. He's like, also my 16-year-old follows you on TikTok now. I'm like, awesome. I'll try to be a good example.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really funny. He was like, you're quite the conversation in our household. I'm like, thank you. So kind of fun.
That's amazing. Well, and it's good content. Oh, so when he's going out and calling people names and saying, and I think his biggest line is like, read the article. We were talking about this before the podcast started. Like, what does he mean, and where is he going to like back this up then?
So when he says read the article, he's just sending people to his site, which I will say this, if you are not versed in evidence and science and in reading science journal articles, it can be confusing.
Yeah.
He starts out all of his articles with some backhanded comment about the reader. He starts out both part 1 and part 2. It was something along the lines of, you know, only people with a fully developed frontal lobe will be able to understand what I'm about to say. Like, it wasn't that extreme, but it's like something along the lines of like, this is for smart people only, you know, so that if you don't know enough and you don't believe him, perhaps at the end of the article, you will feel like you're stupid. You know, it's kind of like, okay, what you're doing is like offending them so that if they don't trust what you're saying, then they feel like maybe they're the stupid one. You know, it's awkward, and it's like, it's horrible. So, but cite your sources though, you know?
Yeah. So this is a logical fallacy for appeal to authority is essentially where he's going.
Yeah. I did the research and I studied all this and I'm so smart. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, then you're stupid. And I'm like, no, I understand perfectly what you're saying. I just don't agree. And I'm 27.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to tell you.
What a great way to start out an article. I mean, it
was horrible. I was like, okay, here we go. Like, and yet I have like 40 pages of notes on like all the citations of why he's wrong.
And can you imagine him getting peer reviewed?
No, I can't actually. I can't. I simply cannot. I would like to see him try. That'd be nice. I'm like, okay, read the article. Notice how when I search Joel Seedman on PubMed, nothing comes up. So what article are you talking about? Your blog or, you know?
Yeah, because it makes it seem like it's an actual study, and it's not. It's not. It's just his opinion on. So has he published anything other than his dissertation?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, he has his website with a bunch of different articles. But they're more like blogs. They're more like things written, you know, about his opinion.
Right.
Except for part 1 was cited. It's just that most of the citations didn't agree with what he was saying. Right. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Yeah. Pretty funny actually. So yeah, it's just there. Oh gosh, there was something else that I was going to say.
Yeah.
It was about. It'll come back to me.
That's okay.
It always does.
Yeah, he's a wild one.
I know.
And I appreciate what like Mike is and Dr. Mike Israel is trying to do by like actually having a conversation with the guy and not blasting him 6 ways to Sunday, because Mike comes in hard with the evidence.
Love Mike.
You know,
I love Mike.
and is like the perfect counterpoint to all this nonsense.
I have friends with a couple of the N1 trainers. He has that N1 cert. I am good friends with a couple of people who have that cert and are currently going through his program, and they're smart people. They're good people. I think that another thing in this whole industry is and perhaps in life in general, is people have a really hard time being friends if they disagree.
Yeah.
And I will say that there's not a single person on TikTok right now that I 100% agree with all of the time. Personally, not even myself. I look back at some of the things I've said a year ago and I'm like, I would probably change that. You know, I probably don't believe that anymore. And I think that's exactly what you should be doing at my level of education, is changing your mind based on new evidence that is presented to you. I think that's literally the definition of evidence-based.
Yeah.
So, I think that making friends and being friends with people who might not agree with you 100% is key to having everyone get along and being better at presenting evidence, you know?
Sure. Well, and with strength specific, you know, sports too, just going back to our point at the beginning is, there may be things that work for people that people don't agree with and don't have a backing, but
exactly.
for whatever reason,
sure,
it's working for them.
Sure.
And, you know, I think on like Fit Talk in general, people fight each other. It's a lot for views, I'll be frank, but also like just fight each other because, you know, oh, that didn't work for me. Okay.
Exactly.
Fine. You know, it's
congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay. You know, that's not what they were saying, and it's not a big deal. So nitpicking thing for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I you know, I follow I don't know if Barbell Medicine, you familiar with those guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So really appreciate
I love them.
Yeah. The continuous learning perspective and the fact that they have changed and aren't dogmatic about training regimens and new evidence and things. They're willing to change their mind. But I wish I really do wish there was more of that in the fitness world in general. TikTok's starting to mature. I know it's what's by the way, what is your perspective on that? Like TikTok versus Instagram, how are the audiences different and how are the people on those platforms different in the fitness world specifically?
Oh my gosh. Instagram, you know, and like I said earlier, I've had Instagram since high school.
Yeah.
Like I've had Instagram for over 10 years. And so it has changed so much in a way that I am so thankful for in a couple of different ways. Mostly because I think that evidence-based people are getting a platform. And I think that that's something really unique, because if you think about 20 years ago, in what world would I have had access to actual active researchers, you know, where I could just DM them and be like, hey, I have a quick question about PMID 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, what? That's unbelievable. It's such a privilege. And I think that is so cool. Someone that I'm really, really thankful for is Scientists with a Board. I don't know if you follow him.
Oh, no.
You need to. It will enrich your life. I swear. I don't know like how what I did in a past life to deserve like the help that he's given me over so many videos.
Oh, wow.
And like he is a active researcher right now, like publishes things right now, is a professor, and like will take time out of his day to look over my sassy video that I want to post about X, Y, and Z. And he's like, you need to tone it down. Okay. Like you can't be doing all that. So I just like appreciate that so much. And I think that's something so unique about social media in general, but specifically Instagram is that, I'll get to that second point in a minute, but Instagram is so like, you could DM literally anyone. And like, if they happen to see it, they see it. And, you know, I can ask for help for people who I would never have the privilege of talking to otherwise. It's like, you know, TikTok, on the other hand, I appreciate for a different reason, because for my own personal selfish reasons, nobody can DM me unless I follow them back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want the DMs, honestly, like, don't ask me questions. I'm just not there yet, you know? So I appreciate the privacy that TikTok gives you in a way as a creator. It gives you a bit more like removed aspect other than Instagram, which is like anyone can send you a DM and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there are settings you could change, but I just haven't figured that out yet. But you know what I'm saying? For the most part, that's how it goes.
Yep.
I do think that with the increase of attention on evidence-based practitioners and creators and researchers, there has been a little bit more of a like, okay, why are we even following influencers then? Which I appreciate. You know, I do think influencers who don't have a background in education should be deplatformed. You know, if you aren't offering anything of value, you know, or if you are masking your platform as an evidence-based platform when it is not, you should be deplatformed. You know, I would love to call more people out, you know. And a good example of this is, I don't know if you saw my video on Coach Jeremy 305.
No, I haven't. Not yet.
So he is someone who promotes a bunch of like holistic, lacking evidence.
Oh, goody.
Yeah, it's awful. He's one of my favorites. Turns out, this is where I get like actually upset. All of his certifications on his website are either fake or expired.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So he claims to be precision nutrition certified, which is what I am. I have level 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And that is like, that took, I want to say like precision nutrition level 2 took a year, and you are doing a lesson every single day. And it's a lot, you know, it's thousands of dollars, and it's like, this is a lot. And it's something I'm very proud of. It's something that took me a lot of time. And so to see someone like not be honest about their cert and claim to have the same one that I have, I'm like, really? Like that? I don't know. I don't like that. So that's what I mean by like, yeah, he shouldn't have, and he has almost 1 million followers.
Oh my word.
Right. So like that, people like that, I'm like, I will call them out until all their followers hate them. I do not care. Like, let's go. But you know, I think that that's slowly kind of maybe equalizing.
Yeah.
I think that maybe 5 years ago, influencers had all the clout and all this like, and like slowly but surely evidence-based practitioners are getting a little more attention. And I really appreciate that. You know, I think that that's kind of fun.
Sure.
It's been fun to watch.
More information, the better. I mean, even honestly, even bad information, in my opinion, the more stuff that we can see that's getting exposed or not exposed, like more stuff in the light is, I think, always better from that perspective. It gives you the opportunity to talk about like why that's wrong or right. And gives opportunity for people to have a conversation and maybe, hopefully, ideally, correct some of their opinions about things that they wouldn't normally ever see or be exposed to. So yeah, the TikTok platform to me is still so immature, not only from a comments perspective, but you know, like it just the amount of people, and this is probably how Instagram was, and I haven't hopped on Instagram until the past couple of years, like probably exactly how it was in its early infancy. Like there was probably just a lot of the same problems with people talking about things they didn't know about and getting a lot of exposure for it. So
it's bad. I mean, the level of like, TikTok is a different animal. It's, you know, like I said, my first big video went big on accident.
Yeah.
You know, and so now I'm like, well, whoops, here I am. Shoot. And, you know, I will say like all my friends and family and people in my life are like, you know, it's been kind of nice. You have a bullying outlet now. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad you guys feel more comfortable now that I have an outlet for my anger. Like, thank you. Oh but God. It really is. It's so immature. And it's a lot of like MLMs, you know, I'm very anti-MLM.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people who see it as, oh, this platform is still new. If I start promoting my thing now, I'll get big. And it's very like, you know, you're here for the wrong reasons. Like,
oh, you just mentioned something that I got blasted for recently. So I recommended 5 women that people may not be as familiar with on Instagram and TikTok, good people that I thought had good content. My wife is being coached by one of them, and one of them was an MLMer and a Beachbody coach. And I got shredded.
Oh no.
I thought Beachbody was fine. I had never heard anything negative about Beachbody. I was like, everything's fine. And to her credit, I'll just say this, and you may not know this person, but her content, she never mentions Beachbody. Her content's pretty on point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not promoting like starvation diets or anything that I saw.
Sure.
One of my relatives follows her and like would have called out something by now, I feel like. But yeah, I am curious, Beachbody, MLM in general, especially on the fitness side, like what thoughts, feelings?
Yeah. Beachbody asked me to do some videos for them actually over quarantine. And I will tell you this, quarantine was hard for me specifically because I stopped bartending. I was a bartender in nightclubs for like 6 years prior to this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, totally different life. Don't do that, but would not recommend. 0 out of 10. But after when quarantine hit in like early 2020, everything shut down. Like imagine being a newly self-employed person.
Yeah,
I was about to take any job.
Oh, sure.
And I did not take that job.
Oh,
so
gosh.
It's like I was desperate, and I was not about to make videos for Beachbody. Like, no. The thing with MLMs is that they are so sneaky about what they allow their people to say. What, if you look at any MLM, just poster or, content creator, you will never see the name in one of their posts unless they are like promoting a product. They'll never be like, I sell Beachbody plans. I'm a Beachbody coach. They specifically leave that out for a reason because people know. Whereas if they say like, I don't know, I'm looking for 5 women who want to lose 30 pounds in the next 30 minutes. It's like, you're selling an MLM, aren't you? Like, this has got to be fake. They're just so sneaky and they have such weird rules. I have some clients who used to be wrapped up in an MLM.
Okay.
And they have just given me they have spilled the tea. It's so interesting. It's really cult-like. It's very much like you have to pretend like you make all this money and you have to buy all this product. And like, if you don't get rid of it, like it's on you. And it's like, it creates a very desperate worker,
Yeah. Yeah. Is there, I guess I'll ask specifically on the Beachbody side because that's what I'm more familiar with now. I know other MLMs, but like on the fitness side, I think I know there's others, but that's the one I'm more familiar with now. Yeah. Like, so I'm sure within those there's decent coaches. Have you found that to be the case at all with Beachbody, or is it like 100% across the board? There is no exception to the rule. Like Beachbody is just promoting garbage.
I think that there are going to be well-intentioned coaches. I think that had I been asked to make videos for them maybe 2 years earlier in my life, I probably would have said yes, just out of being naive.
Right.
Good intentions. Like, well, I want to, I think I'm a good coach, so I want to get myself out there and maybe, meet some people and network. And, but I don't think people who know what's happening I could trust, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I think that once you're exposed to it and you know what's behind the curtain and you know what you're doing and you know that you're selling a BS product and you know that you're tricking people, I'm like, at that point, how good of a coach are you really? Yeah. And I mean, like, I'm not saying that maybe they don't also have good education, but part of being a good coach, in my opinion, is your intention behind it and your integrity and your practice and ethics and all that. So I don't know, that's kind of I think that good people can also be maybe a little bit desperate sometimes. And like I said, it's been hard times for the entire world right now. So it's like, maybe you just need to make some extra income and this is what you're doing. And that it is what it is. But I personally don't think that people who know what's going on and have other options would be coaching through an MLM. That
makes sense. With Beachbody specifically, what are some of the things that stands out to you other than Shakeology is a big thing with them, but is it the fact that they're not certified? Like what specifically about that particular MLM turns you off?
Well, for me, when the only experience I have with them was the workout video, they wanted me to like record the workout videos. And so they wanted me to do like HIIT workouts. And I don't know if you've seen my video at HIIT workouts, but body weight exercises are actually not HIIT workouts.
Yeah.
And so like high intensity interval training is based on VO2 max, and body weight workouts are not based on VO2 max. And so I'm like, well, this is already like, I am inherently saying something that I don't believe to be true. So nope, that's gonna be a no for me. And that's another thing. It's like this one size fits all workout style program that was getting really popular. And I understand, like, when we all were stuck at our house, like, well, there's no other option. Of course, do what you want to do, move around your house, do body weight workouts. But this has been happening long before quarantine, you know? So this like one size fits all, like, I'm going to do like a HIIT workout in my living room. And it's like, that's not HIIT, you know, like, just call it what it is. Don't, you know, use terms that aren't appropriate for that. It's just very frustrating. So, I mean, for what it was probably fine. I think it was the fact that I knew that I would be participating in an MLM, and like promoting a workout that wasn't accurate. Like, this isn't it. This is body weight training, not the same thing, that I didn't like, you know?
Yeah.
They offered the thing is, they offer a lot of money though, you know, that's like they were paying really well. And so I'm like, how are they able to do this? You know, but MLM. So that's why
they're at the top.
Yeah, exactly. They can do that. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, you're right about a lot of these not saying anything. It was just odd to me that, and I've since learned, like you said, why they don't say anything, but it was really odd to me scrolling through and just learning more about that, why that wouldn't be stated at all in a profile. If it's a money-making venture, it's kind of like advertising. You would figure you want to be front and center with what it is and what you're doing, and trying to get, like, funnel as many people in, but it's totally different strategy. So super odd.
Yeah. They also call themselves business owners.
Well, that's every MLM.
Yeah, no, it's so bad. Right. MLMs in general, they call themselves business owners, and it makes me laugh. I'm like, I promise you that if you own a business, from experience, I'm not hiding my name. Yeah. No. I promise you, I'm putting that logo everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Like, come on, marketing 101. Don't hide your name.
The more exposure you get, the better. It's not something you want to avoid.
Yeah.
Awesome. I really, hate to cut this off here, but I want to have you on again to talk more about fitness and all these crazy things that are going on, the research that you're doing and all that kind of stuff. But I want to give you the opportunity to plug whatever you want to plug from a training perspective or content perspective. So go for it. Yeah.
My handle is @YourSetFitness, YOUR. Please use the right your. I think it's like a mini IQ test to get on my page. Just kidding. My mom is a English teacher at the collegiate level. So I have I like grammar. It's fun, but it's YOUR Fitness so follow me anywhere. My content is direct. I'll say that. What would you say? It's direct. It's to the point. It's evidence-based.
Yeah.
I do follow a little bit of Brina style, in that we are not necessarily, I don't think kind is the word a lot of people would use to describe us. And I don't plan on that changing, and that's okay. Yeah. But, I like the platform. I've had fun with it, and I have some great videos coming up. So
awesome.
Definitely.
Well, very good. Well, Olivia, really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have you on again. This was awesome. And be sure to check her out and the training and all of the just scroll through the content. Just take a look at everything she's debunking and providing evidence for. It's really, really, really good stuff. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. Please give Freedom Cast a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean a lot to our business. Plus, it's fun to read y'all's reviews. See you next time.